Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Charlene Aaron. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the shooting outside a Mohammed cartoon contest in Texas. It was the first time the group has claimed to have carried out an attack in the U.S. Meanwhile, the FBI is under increased scrutiny for failing to prevent the attack after it had closely monitored one of the suspects in the shooting. ISIS says it was behind the attack outside a contest in Texas featuring cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, the first time it has claimed responsibility for an attack inside the U.S. U.S. federal agents had been monitoring 30-year-old Elton Simpson for possible terrorist ties for the last 10 years. Simpson and his roommate were shot dead after opening fire outside the event. In the past, FBI agents had recorded Simpson talking about fighting non-believers for Allah and about plans to travel to Africa to link up with brothers in Somalia. 5 years ago, he was arrested for attempting to join an al-Qaeda group there. Years spent investigating Simpson for terrorism ties resulted in 3 years of probation, placement on the no-fly list, and $600 in fines and court fees. His attorney says he became increasingly upset.
I mean, I know that some of the statements that he made were, if you die on the battlefield, then you get, whatever, you get the wives and things like that. But I think you hear that out of a lot of people. I mean, that's a belief of the Muslim faith.
Simpson recently posted messages on Twitter about his dismay with his country. Just minutes before Sunday's attack, he sent a Twitter message that he and a bro had pledged loyalty to ISIS. "May Allah accept us as mujahideen," he wrote. Officials say Simpson was not under 24-hour surveillance, even though the FBI was aware of his social media rants against the U.S.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry made an unannounced trip to Somalia Tuesday. He's the first top U.S. diplomat to visit the country. Kerry met with Somalia's president and other regional leaders at the airport in Somalia's capital. His brief visit comes a day after extensive counterterrorism and refugee talks with Kenya's government. Kenya is scrambling to combat Somalia's al-Shabaab terrorists. Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for last month's massacre at Kenya's Garissa University College. 148 people died. Many were Christian students.
Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee is the latest GOP candidate slated to announce his run for president today. This isn't the first time Huckabee has had his eyes on the Oval Office. In 2008, he ran for president, winning 8 states. CBN News chief political correspondent David Brody weighed in on Huckabee's announcement and what is different as he runs for office this time around.
There's not only more fire in the belly, I think there's more money in the wallet. And I think that's going to help Huckabee this time around. I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, he has told me privately that this time around will be different financially. And, to quote the philosopher Jerry Maguire, show me the money. That's exactly what needs to happen for Huckabee to be successful. Look, Huckabee could be one of the last guys standing here. Why is that? Well, he has likability ratings through the roof. He's a great communicator, somewhat like a Ronald Reagan type communicator. So he's got those two things going for him. The problem has always been money. The problem has also been that he's such a kind of a nice guy that he hasn't been taken as seriously on foreign policy in the past. This time, he is determined to change that, already coming out with ads, some campaign ads, actually, pre-campaign ads, that show him being very tough on radical Islam and taking it to the terrorists. So we'll see.
Huckabee is planning to announce his bid for president in his hometown of Hope, Arkansas.
Earlier this week, 2 other Republican candidates announced their plans to run for office: world-renowned brain surgeon Dr. Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina.
Fiorina is the first female Republican candidate in the 2016 presidential race. As David Brody reports, the former Hewlett-Packard CEO says she will use her business experience to drive her campaign.
Tech-savvy Carly Fiorina went online to deliver the big news.
I'm Carly Fiorina, and I'm running for president.
Fiorina tells CBN News that her presence in the race could blunt the damaging war on women campaign tactic waged by Democrats.
Hillary Clinton will play that card unless she faces me in a general election.
But making it that far will be an uphill climb. She's never won in politics before, though she considers that a good thing.
I'm not a politician. And I think that's actually really important. You know, ours was intended to be a citizen government.
Her campaign will be centered on economic matters, portraying Fiorina as a tough, no-nonsense CEO. She's seen tough times in her personal life, too. In addition to beating breast cancer, she faced the death of her 35-year-old stepdaughter.
I am quite certain that I would not have been able to endure those without a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm just certain of that.
What's also certain is Carly Fiorina will add variety and spice to a male-dominated GOP race for president. David Brody, CBN News.
Virginia's Attorney General has rejected state standards that call for improved medical safety conditions at abortion clinics. Democrat Mark Herring says the standards should not apply to existing abortion clinics because that would shut down abortion services. The new standards would have required things like wider doors and hallways in case of emergencies. Abortion opponents say Herring is playing politics with women's safety. The president of the Family Foundation of Virginia says this decision will put women who have a medical emergency in an abortion center, a fairly regular occurrence, at risk when emergency personnel cannot get to them.
A leading advocate for marriage believes the Supreme Court will protect traditional marriage. Mike McManus heads Marriage Savers, a ministry to strengthen the institution of marriage in America. He also writes a regular column on marriage and family issues. McManus spoke with CBN's Heather Sells about why he says gay marriage should be left up to states to decide.
First off, you say that gay marriage should be left up to the states to decide. Why do you think that's the better course?
Well, only 3 states have actually voted for same-sex marriage. 8 other legislatures have voted for it, but we have it in 37 states because the courts have imposed it in 26 additional states. And it seems to me it should be up to each state to decide whether they want to allow same-sex marriage.
Now, I know that you have looked at the justices' questions and the whole debate in the Supreme Court very carefully. Do you think that they will agree?
Well, the swing vote is Justice Kennedy. He voted in the affirmative in favor of gay marriage in 3 separate earlier cases. He said, I don't even know how to count the decimals when we talk about millennia. The definition of marriage has been with us for millennia, and it's very difficult for the court to say, oh, well, we know better. And even liberal Justice Stephen Breyer said the marriage between a man and a woman has been the law everywhere for thousands of years among people who are not discriminating against gay people. Now, both Kennedy and Breyer said kind things about gay marriage, and so they could go either way. But as John Roberts put it, Maine voted by referendum to limit marriage to a man and a woman in 2009, and then 3 years later changed their mind and allowed it for same-sex marriage. And he said, why can't we wait until the states come to their own conclusions about this? People feel very differently about something if they have a chance to vote on it than if it's imposed on them by the courts. I think that logic will prevail.
What is your biggest concern if the Supreme Court does rule in favor of saying that same-sex marriage is a constitutional right?
It's going to force everyone to obey. For example, pastors who may not want to perform same-sex weddings could be sued. We have a case of a baker out in Oregon who's being forced to pay $135,000 for refusing to bake a cake for a lesbian couple. The imposition of same-sex marriage will also impose a massive discrimination against those who have traditional beliefs in this area. But if asked the question, should the states be allowed to decide whether there should be same-sex marriage or not, a clear majority favor that.
Well, a lot to watch, a lot of questions if the court does decide in favor of same-sex marriage. Mike McManus, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I want to turn now to Nepal, where the death toll is now more than 7,000 after the recent devastating earthquake. As Gary Lane reports, help is coming from around the world, including teams from Israel and CBN Disaster Relief.
It was a miraculous rescue in Kathmandu. When a team of first responders from Israel Aid arrived on the scene of this collapsed hotel building, they discovered someone was possibly trapped inside. French rescuers brought in high-tech sound equipment that detected breathing and a heartbeat beneath the rubble. Norwegian rescuers joined in. 8 hours later, Krishna Devi Kadka was freed from the concrete that had encapsulated her for 5 days. The international rescue effort gave Nepalis hope that their missing loved ones may still be alive 1 week after the earthquake. The Israel rescuers were not the only Israelis among the first responders here in Nepal. Members of the Israeli Defense Forces arrived within hours after the earthquake and set up a sophisticated mobile mass unit to treat injured Nepalis. And 2 Israeli doctors have joined the CBN disaster relief team in Kathmandu, providing much-needed medical treatment.
Israelis are warm people, and they usually like to do and not to talk. So I see it many times that Israelis react very quickly. And actually, Nepal has a very special place in the heart of many Israelis.
The doctors treated infected wounds, and many people with pneumonia and upper respiratory infections received medication. This woman was ill. Her condition got worse after the earthquake. She had no one to turn to for help.
I'm very happy with the team that came by today. They gave me medicine and I had the opportunity to meet the team members. I'm really thankful.
The CBN relief effort here in Nepal is truly an international one. It's not just the Israeli doctors that are providing medical care, but Dr. Carly here is from CBN Indonesia. She's here checking hearts, checking the health of the people, seeing what their needs are. We have other team members from other countries. We have Nepal represented here. We also have CBN India and the United States.
Because of our offices in around the world, we're able to quickly respond to disasters immediately, effectively, not having to send a team from America over a period of time. They can fly usually within an hour or 2 hours and be on the ground, on the scene to assist our partners in the country, which they've done in Nepal.
It's not only international that we work with Indians and Indonesian doctors and Americans and people from all over the world, but it's also interreligious, and I think it is very special.
In addition to the medical care, CBN has provided food for the hungry and tarps and mattresses for the homeless and displaced. When natural disasters like the Nepal earthquake strike and wreak havoc on a nation, Christians and Jews are often first responders.
You know, coming and being able to show that we care, support, allows us to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. CBN here has come with the presence to make a long-term sustainable impact. Their lives have been totally destroyed. They've been shaken. This earthquake has rattled the entire nation.
Gary Lane, CBN News, Kathmandu, Nepal.
Coming up, no laughing matter, how one man is using humor to draw attention to a global tragedy. The ISIS shooting in Texas is just the latest example of terrorists targeting cartoonists for exercising their free speech rights. But many cartoonists refuse to back down. One of the more well-known political cartoons in the world comes from Israel.
Dry Bones appears in the Jerusalem Post and has been reprinted in newspapers from the New York Times to the Wall Street Journal. As Chris Mitchell reports, lately its creator has been taking on a new cause.
For more than 40 years, Jewish cartoonist Yaakov Kirshen has aimed his political commentary at topics like Islamic terrorism and anti-Semitism. Now he's targeting what he calls one of the worst problems in the world today, persecution of Middle East Christians.
Christian communities being totally slaughtered and murdered and driven out, and a whole ethnic cleansing of the Middle East to wipe out Christianity, and Western leaders just look the other way.
In just one recent example, this past summer, ISIS drove tens of thousands of Christians out of their ancient homes and gave them the choice to either convert or die. Another example is this burned-out church in Minya, Egypt by the Muslim Brotherhood. Kirshen says he can't understand the apathy in the West to what he calls a Holocaust facing Middle East Christians.
I think the unusual thing is the apathy. It's totally crazy that the churches are not speaking out, that the politicians are not speaking out, that there aren't demonstrations in the street.
So Kirshen is turning up the volume. His team includes his wife Sally and their intern Michael. They've launched an internet campaign to rally support for Middle East Christians. He wants to turn Dry Bone fans into members, then activists.
People have to have a way to fight back against this. If our churches and our Jewish organizations and our political leaders are willing to go along with the willful rewriting of history, if they are willing to go along with just looking the other way while the Christians of the Middle East are totally slaughtered and wiped out, then somehow we, the people, have to do something.
His art form, refined over 4 decades, communicates truths in just a few lines, and pictures like this one. It says, "We Islamists are not just a bunch of Jew-hating terrorist killers." You're not? Of course not. We also murder Christians. This is clearly a mom-and-pop operation.
I'm the fulfillment department and the shipping department.
Despite their small size, they hope to make a big splash for Middle East Christians. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Herzliya, Israel.
Up next, exposing America's porn epidemic and what it means for the next generation.
Christian author Josh McDowell says internet pornography is undermining the church more than external threats like gay marriage. McDowell says laws that declare traditional beliefs bigoted may actually help Christian families stand out more and present a positive example to their neighbors. But he warns that addiction to pornography is a more serious threat because it's destroying pastors, church members, and their marriages.
Teens today are growing up in a society filled with pornography. It's easier than ever to find thanks to the internet.
Indeed, and many teens are becoming addicted. As Paul Strand reports, that addiction could ruin their lives.
The numbers are staggering. $100 billion worth of porn bought every year. 12% of the world's websites offer the illicit material. And each day, 2.5 billion pornographic emails whiz through cyberspace. And possibly most astounding of all, 67% of men and 49% of women say porn is acceptable.
Our society's just saturated with it.
Former addict C.J. Hitz got hooked at age 8. He says on average, kids first run into porn online at 11 years old. 90% of kids and teens admit they viewed it online, most while doing homework.
Now it's accessible to everyone.
Aubrey Terry's exposure came along with almost constant sexual abuse from her grandfather and an uncle from when she was 2 till she was rescued at 9. Her earliest memory?
Having a bottle and being exposed to that kind of stuff.
Now a member of the Human Trafficking Task Force of Southern Colorado, Terry puts a lot of the blame for today's X-rated epidemic on the internet.
Before, pornography was like this dirty, secretive, dark subculture. It's everyday life.
And it's there all the time. Every second, 28,000 people are online looking, and the sales ring up at $3,000 each second.
Today's generation, younger generation, receives more temptations per second than any other generation in the history of mankind.
So when it comes to pornography in our kids, in this hyper-fast, hyper-technological age, it's not a matter of temptation coming at them every once in a while, but almost every second, and with every device. Addiction also claimed CJ's wife, Shelley, for a while. They both now minister to free people from an addiction that's constantly available.
And I'll have teenagers that will confess to me that they have their phones in their beds with them at night, and they're sexting. They're sending pictures of themselves to others. They're sending sexually graphic messages.
And this is hitting just as hard inside the church as out. Youth minister Andy Brainer learned that disturbing truth after criticizing a friend for offering porn channels at his Florida hotel chain.
And he goes, well, to be honest with you, he goes, you know who the biggest consumers of this pornography is? And I was like, what? And he named a certain denomination. He said, when they do their convention down here, my sale in pornography goes through the roof.
Brainer ministers to tens of thousands of Christian teens on the road and at a youth camp he leads near Durango, Colorado.
90% of the kids that come to us that come from Christian families that are interested in Christian values, that are learning about Christian worldview, 90% of those are deeply addicted to pornography.
As Shelley did research for a book on the addiction, she surveyed Christian women and girls and found many producing their own porn by sexting.
They're Christian teen girls, 21% admitted to sending a naked photo of themselves to someone else through their cell phone.
It's almost like you don't want to send me that picture. Why? Everyone else does. I've asked your friend, she sent it.
And this addiction can be just as bad as the hardest drugs. The group Fight the New Drug shows this video about how the brain releases addictive levels of pleasurable chemicals when a person sexually satisfies themselves with porn. Synaptic paths formed in the brain call out for more and more of this satisfaction.
A kid that is addicted to pornography or starts looking at pornography at 13, 14, 15 years old begins this synaptical connection in the brain that it's like a muscle. It's like working out. It becomes stronger the more that you work it.
The addicted brain then develops stronger cravings for harder stuff to get the same level of satisfaction. And nowadays, it's right there waiting on the internet. Experts sounded the alarm recently at the Christian Witherspoon Institute.
A teen today can access hardcore material that 15 years ago, a seasoned purveyor of pornography would have had a hard time to acquire.
Therapist Jill Manning says this is detrimental and dangerous.
When is a human being ready to process a rape scene, torture, bestiality, incest, child pornography?
It's ruining the way many young men now look at women.
There's no question that now a woman is something to be of conquest.
We're missing her spirituality, we're missing her beauty, we're missing her strengths because we're only desiring one piece.
And studies are showing it's making many men and women almost incapable of enjoying sex with their own real-life partners.
There is increased risk of separation and divorce. There's less sensitivity in their marriages. There's decreased sexual satisfaction and decreased sexual relations.
So the teens of today need to realize they may be risking their own future marriages.
Pornography used to be something so dark and scandalous it was kept in the shadows. What's going to happen to our kids in a world where it's omnipresent, available anywhere, anytime? Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Colorado Springs, Colorado.
And finally this hour, a message to inspire you and hopefully move you to post, tag, and share with others. Remember this, God's plan and purpose for our life is bigger than we can ever imagine. But the biggest obstacle to overcome is usually our fear and thinking we have to do it in our own strength. Fear is not from God. He has given you love in its place. And with Him, you have the power to do great things. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And in God's eyes, you're already awesome. It's time for your reality to catch up with His vision.
Oh, I like that. Reality, catch up with His vision.
Yes,
Amen.
indeed.
Well, that's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com.
We'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. Please do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make this a terrific Tuesday, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.